Minister, this is about the need, I suppose, and the urgency around bus services in rural areas, and specifically my own home area of Roscommon and Galway and Ballinasloe Town. At the public consultation phase of the Connecting Ireland Rural Mobility Plan, I coordinated a video campaign to highlight proposed and urgently needed routes. This was back in December 2021, and at that time we were encouraging submissions to come in. And we have seen some of those new services. I really want to acknowledge, like, some of those new services was a Castlereagh service to Ballinasloe that went through Glenamaddy, Mount Bellew, Caltra, Haskra. Again, a fantastic service, because there was no buses that are going through some of those towns. In fact, there was no way for some of those people to come in and actually go to day services, even in the social services. So it's absolutely fantastic to see that up now and running, and only launched in the last month or so. And we're looking at 3 services a day. Again, fantastic, linking up places, Ballinasloe and Castlereagh, that'll be linked by geography anyway with the River Suck, but again, it's bringing students to the campus, you know, the university campus town in Mount Bellew, and it's bringing people and linking them to different towns in our area. We also have the local link from Ballinasloe to Portumna, Minister, and again going through Lawrencetown and Aircourt, and a frequency of service there about 3 times a day. From Loughrea to Ballinasloe, and this was replacing sort of the X20 route. So there used to be the 20 bus. If you remember when you were a student, you'd be going from Dublin to Galway. There used to be the 20 bus Erin route, and the X20, which was the express service, which would take all the stops to Athlone and then go direct from Athlone to Dublin. The challenge is that was taken off those routes a year or 2 years ago, and it's caused a lot of challenges, because for people that use the bus pass to travel, or students that are travelling as well. Minister, a local link was put in place from Loughrea to Ballinasloe, and again covering some of those areas, Kilreekle, Cabtagal and Kilconnell, and we also do have some commercial services and providers that cover those routes as well. But Minister, there are crucial needs here, because currently there is no link between Athlone and Ballinasloe on the old Dublin-Galway road. That would go through the communities of Summerhill, Drum, Moore, outside of Crea into Ballinasloe. There's no public service that's going on that route. That used to be a major route in Ireland on the old Dublin-Galway road. It is one of the proposals, Minister, that's under the it's one of the proposals under the Connecting Rural Mobility Plan. And I suppose I wanted to ask about that particular route, because in Ballinasloe we've Portiuncula Hospital. It is the hospital for over 20,000 people in Athlone. It actually covers an area of nearly 500,000, which takes in the whole catchment area. But it is the hospital for that city. You know, for people who are attending appointments, particularly around maternity, there is no way for them to get directly to the hospital. The train station is roughly about 15 minutes, nearly a mile's walk from the hospital itself. If someone is in need and not able to walk, the bus service, which is fantastic, stops right outside the hospital. So I really would like to ask and see that we would have that service coming forward. So I'm hoping that that's a service that's been proposed, and hopefully would be one that would connect, considering we had Minister Eamon Ryan down for the first electric bus in Athlone only a week or 2 weeks ago. Minister, the other services just to inquire about are the A78 from Athlone to Roscommon. So Athlone to Ballinasloe is one route, then from Athlone to Roscommon, which goes through Ballyforan, Ballygar and Athleague. Again, this is one of the proposals, again, that would bring connectivity to some of those towns and connect people from Athlone to Roscommon. And then finally it was just Athlone to Westport was another route that was proposed, bringing in, of course, Roscommon and Mayo, and that was the route 440. My other just couple of points are just around communication in local communities. What is the NTA doing around communication with regional papers, local radio stations, community publications? Like, I don't even know if all the information is on bus stops, but that's something we really do need to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Las Cahirlock, and thank you, Senator Dolan, for your question. As you mentioned there, I am delighted to be here today in the Shannon on behalf of the Minister for Transport, and I do understand your question is in relation to the rollout of Connecting Ireland, the plan more generally, but also specifically regarding Route 23 between Athlone to Ballinasloe, and I know you mentioned a few other routes there as well. Just from the outset, I'd like to note that the Department of Transport has responsibility for policy and overall funding in relation to public transport. However, the Department is not involved in the day-to-day operation of public transport services nationally. It is the NTA, the National Transport Authority, that has statutory responsibility for securing the provision of public passenger transport services nationally by way of contracts, and for the allocation of associated funding to the relevant transport operators. And I'd like to reassure Senator Dolan that the Government is dedicated to providing the public with reliable and realistic sustainable mobility options, and public transport plays a key role in the delivery of this goal. And obviously the Minister for Transport is very conscious of the need to connect our people and places across Ireland. It is important to provide access opportunities for all citizens to employment, education, healthcare or retail. And the Minister is strongly committed to improving public transport services in rural areas and to piloting new transport initiatives for people of all ages and abilities living there. And whether it is reduced car dependency or a more integrated transport network, or our vision for rural Ireland is ambitious and one that is central to his department's work programme for 2023. The Connecting Ireland Rural Mobility Plan supports this ambition, with its core aims being improvement of public transport services in rural areas and indeed piloting of new transport initiatives for all. Under this pivotal plan, we will see a 25% overall increase in rural bus services, over 100 rural villages benefiting from frequent public transport service, at least 3 return trips daily for the first time, and over 60 new connections to regional cities from surrounding areas. Importantly, the ethos of community-led transport will also be maintained, and this has already been seen in the adaptation of the Connecting Ireland proposals in supporting the increased demands for public transport in local areas where the population has increased due to the high influx of Ukrainian refugees. In relation specifically to your question on services, Senator, connecting Athlone and Ballinasloe, I am happy to clarify that the Regional Corridor 23 is currently served by a number of express and multi-stop services between Galway and Dublin. And as a part of upcoming Connecting Ireland phases, the NTA plans to review services on this corridor in the years 2024 and 2025 to assess the possibility of an increased frequency of services and better integration. And while it's not currently planned to introduce new or enhanced services along the old Dublin-Galway road, which is the R446 between Athlone and Ballinasloe, the Department and the NTA do remain agile, I understand, and flexible in its management of the programme, so that where implementation can be kept under review and where progress could be impacted, other plans could be advanced instead. So the NTA also publish updates on the implementation of these services in their quarterly bulletin, which can be found on their website. Also, just to mention, Senator, it's important to note that there are currently a number of routes operated from Athlone to Galway. So we have the City Link services 660, 760 and 761, with 9 services per day to Ballinasloe. The Air Coach 706 Express with a number of services per day to Ballinasloe, or Portincla Hospital, and the Go Bus 720. I see you're shaking your head in relation to that. So that differs from your experience. You can let me know that and I can come back to you, Senator, on it.
I appreciate your representing Minister Eamon Ryan, but those services you've just mentioned, the commercial providers, they go on the motorway. They go on the motorway. They don't go through the towns and villages that we're supposed to be connecting. And I suppose my huge issue here is that there are communities that benefited, both families, older people, students, that use that service. When the buses used to go on the old Dublin-Galway road, it was very well used. It was the main route from Dublin to Galway. But the motorway has now happened. It's bypassed a lot of these communities, and instead now we're left with commercial providers, which of course are going to go from town to town on the motorway. But what happens to the communities that are living in between the motorways? It's up to us and it's up to the state in terms of public transport to provide a service to people that are not being connected by commercial providers. And I'm just surprised that it's going to take 2 more years when we have a bus that's just been launched, like an electric bus, that's supposed to do a 150-mile radius. It's like less than 20 miles from Athlone to Ballinasloe. I don't see why it can't go on anyway, it's in the proposal. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And I know that you welcome the Castlereagh to Ballinasloe, you know, that new service, you know, the three services a day to students and the campus and all of that. I know that you also mentioned the 878 Athlone to Roscommon and the 440 as well from Athlone. So I'll ask the Minister of Transport to come back to you directly in relation to those. There are 4 routes that are planned, I understand, for the first phase of Connecting Ireland for Galway. So some have been implemented already in the Connemara region. The Route 431 from Carrow Road to Claremorris via Mam Cross, Cong and Ballinrobe. And then there's also the Route 432. It'll be very, very swift. In the coming months, there are 2 further routes that will be implemented, the Route 546 from Ballinasloe and the Route 438 from Tuam to Galway. And all of the above routes will offer a minimum 3 return trips, 7 days a week.